Greetings. Thought I'll do a very short video about Genesis and the creation of earth and the heavens and people, Adam and Eve's story. It's going to be very short. Just want to touch on a few highlights that tend to confuse people. So let's just go through it briefly. Don't want to get too detailed because I want to keep it fairly short. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. So in this verse, we can clearly see that creation has occurred because God has made the heavens and the earth. But the earth has no form, so there's chaos. Because it is without form, the earth basically has no purpose. God has yet to decide a purpose, or He has yet to fulfill a purpose for the planet Earth. And darkness was on the face of the deep, means there was no understanding yet. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. The Spirit of God, according to Trinity people, is the third essence or the third personage or the third individual part of God, the triune God or the Trinity of God. According to oneness people, the Spirit of God is just another way that God represents Himself when He is communicating with His children. So let's go on. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Now there's two ways to take that verse. When He said, "Let there be light," God is bringing purpose and Himself into the void. God is bringing understanding. God is bringing His intelligence. God is bringing the divine into nothing. So where there was nothing, now there's going to be a heavenly purpose. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. The sun hasn't been made yet. There's no moon, there's no nothing. God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. So the evening and the morning was the first day. Now, something a lot of people miss, since there's no sun, we don't know how long these days were. We like to think that it was a 24-hour day. Probably not. We don't know how long God took to create each day until He actually puts the sun and the moon in the sky along with the stars. So let's move on. Day 2, the firmament. Then God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." Thus God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. So the evening and the morning were the second day. Now a lot of people think that when it says heaven, that's where God lives. That's just so wrong. God does not live in the clouds that we see in the sky. That would limit God to being very restricted. That brings Him down to a human understanding. God is above all our comprehension. Our human brains cannot even fathom anything about how vast, how wonderful, how glorious God truly is. We cannot even go there, and we will have no understanding of what or who God truly is until we meet Him face to face. So when I hear Trinity people arguing with oneness people about who and what God is, I just find it ironic and kind of funny, because nobody knows and nobody can understand until we ourselves come into direct personal contact with Him in the heavenly realm, which is God's throne, and we sit beneath His feet. and he reveals himself fully to us, which he cannot do as long as we're in this physical, sinful state. Day 3, earth, sea, and vegetation. Then God said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and gathering together of the waters he called seas, and God saw that it was good. Genesis 1, 9, and 10. Then God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its own kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, the herb that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning was the third day. So what we're seeing is God is establishing order where there was chaos, establishing purpose where there had been disorder and nothingness. Day 4. Then God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night. So this is when we get the 24-hour day going. Prior to this, there was no hint of a 24-hour day. Who knows how long it took God to create things during the first 3 days. But now we're on day 4. Things are speeding up. And let there be signs for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth. And it was so. Then God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and their lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the 4th day. So now we have the establishment of the 24-hour day and the 365 days a year. So we have further order. Day 5. Then God said, let the waters abound with an abundance of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of the heavens. So God created great sea creatures and every living thing that moves, with which the waters abounded, according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth. So in the evening and the morning were the 5th day. So God is now supplying the earth with wildlife. He's giving abundant nature. He's setting the stage for his ultimate creation, which is man. So here we go. This will be day 6. And notice that all along God is saying it is good. He doesn't say it's perfect. God never says that his creation is perfect. He says it's good. Then God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, cattle and creeping things and beasts of the earth according to its kind. And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth according to its kind, cattle according to its kind, and everything that creeps on the earth according to his kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let us make man in our image. This verse throws so many people. According to our likeness, let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. Well, what does this verse mean when it says, let us make man in our image? I believe God is talking to the heavenly host here. And our image doesn't mean the image that we're in now. So a lot of people are confused. It doesn't talk about having 2 arms, 2 legs. And the Mormons especially believe that God looks like a man. God does not look like a man. God is a spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. If that verse doesn't tell you who God is or what God is a spirit. Jesus came into a lower state. He says it himself that he had to lower himself, which means he took on a human form in order to complete his mission, which ultimately was the cross, in order to raise us up. But let's get back to this verse. What is the image of God? What is our image? It is the ability to communicate, to pray, to worship, to acknowledge, to be one with our Creator. That is the image of God, people. It is not having two arms and two legs and a brain and emotions. We can use our emotions and our brains and our bodies to go into our closet and to commune with God. That is what the animals lack. That is what creation itself lacks. God gave it to humans. That is the image of God. It's just that simple. I don't know why people can't see it. It is the ability to walk in the Spirit, to pray, to hear the voice of God, to acknowledge His presence, to worship Him, to say to God, God, you are my God, and I am crazy in love with you. I appreciate all that you do, and I look forward to a closer walk with you, O Lord, and I need you in my life because I'm nothing without you. So God gives His human creation dominion over all the earth, over all the creatures that inhabit the earth. Not that man might abuse the earth, not that man might abuse the creatures in the earth. Man might be the caretakers of both. And God said to them, Adam and Eve, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. God didn't say abuse it. He said subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves over the earth or moves on the earth. And God said, see, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed to you. It shall be for food. Also to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life, I have given every green herb for food. And it was so. Then God saw everything that He had made, and indeed it was very good. Again, God never says it was perfect. Good, very good. So the evening and the morning were the sixth day, day 7. Thus the heavens and the earth and all of the host of them were finished. And on the 7th day God ended His work which He had done, and He rested on the 7th day from all His work which He had done. Then God blessed the 7th day, and He sanctified it, because in it He rested from all His work which God had created and made. Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. Now it says God rested. God never tires. God is not a man that He should tire. God is not a person that He should tire. When it said God rested, it just means that God stopped. God has completed His purpose. God has taken chaos and nothing and given it purpose. And He has now arranged it so that He's content. So God gives instructions on how Adam and Eve are to live in the garden, which is another story. So I hope people will take another look at the Genesis story and the creation story. Of course, it doesn't mention the race of Adam and Eve because it doesn't matter. The Garden of Eden story, a lot of people are still searching for the Garden of Eden. I think personally, doesn't matter, but my personal opinion is somewhere in the Mesopotamia area, and it's been lost in time. That's my personal opinion, because God understands that we would ruin it now. We would, because we're vain, we would probably worship it and not appreciate it for its intended purpose. And the Garden of Eden is really a metaphor for how we are supposed to live as children of the Creator, as compared to how we are now in the state that we live in as humans now. So I hope this story helps, and I wish you a blessed day. Please ring the bell and subscribe. I send you love and blessings. Shalom.